I don't need to tell you that it's been a weird year for movies. For one, all you need to do is remember that due to everything that's currently happening in the world right now, Dolittle remains one of the highest grossing movies of the year, and that's a film that lost its studio $70 million. While the theatrical experience has come to a standstill, however, that hasn't stopped great movies finding their way to audiences all the same. Streaming platforms have continued to keep people entertained and deliver some cracking films on the regular, while early home releases for the year's biggest flicks have resulted in titles that otherwise might have been delayed being embraced by audiences. It is true that so far it's been the high-profile stinkers that have taken up most of the headlines, but there's been a wide array of great movies dropping over the first half of 2020 that deserve to be championed. Before we begin though, and just to avoid any confusion, all of the following films are based on the US release dates, not the UK, because I just needed some kind of criteria. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best movies of 2020 so far. Number 10, Sorry We Missed You. If you've seen any Ken Loach movie ever, you probably know what you're letting yourself in for with the director's latest Sorry We Missed You. That being kitchen sink realism and flawed characters whose lives go from bad to incomprehensibly miserable in the span of about 90 minutes. The second consecutive Loach film to be set in Newcastle, which I swear doesn't make me biased, Sorry We Missed You is a far subtler movie than its critical darling predecessor, I, Daniel Blake. The flick follows the life of Ricky and his family, mostly played by unknowns and non-actors, a self-employed delivery driver struggling to make ends meet. The big societal subjects remain the focus, 0-hour contracts and the gig economy being the targets here, but the characters this time around anchor them far more believably. It's miserable, yes, but the humanity at the heart of it is what allows the movie to excel and earn most of its emotional beats. The family drama is intensely raw, and Ricky's spiral into an economic hole designed to keep him at the bottom is absolutely no fun to watch, but it is further proof that Loach's work can be as vital as ever. Number 9, Emma. If you haven't heard of Emma, no, not the Anna Taylor-Joy one, the latest drama from Jackie director Pablo Larraín, I don't blame you really. That's because its planned theatrical release has been shelved, and it was instead screened for just one day in the US via Mubi. That one day was enough for it to make an impact and gain a reputation as being a serious end-of-year contender though. One of the many movies on this list that's hiding plenty of shocking reveals behind its deceptively simple premise, Emma follows the eponymous character, a dancer whose life spins out of control after her adopted son is taken away from her. It's the way that the movie combines music and visuals that's the real winner though. Essential character building is accomplished through some genuinely breathtaking dance sequences. All held together by an outstanding chaotic central performance, Emma is the kind of film where you can almost feel the sweat, grime and passion on display. Number 8, Swallow. 2020 has been an especially good year for psychological thrillers, and Swallow stands out as one of the very best. A great companion piece to The Invisible Man, the directorial debut from Carlo Mirabella Davis tells the story of housewife Hunter, who develops an obsession with swallowing household objects, big or small, pointy or round, in order to feel some sense of control in her life. It's not the most visceral or gory movie on this list by far, but there were few scant seconds while watching Swallow that I didn't feel horribly uncomfortable. The core premise could have become one note in the wrong hands, but Mirabella Davis uses it as a creative way to explore the psychological depths of this character. It can be absolutely gross, but there's a stylistic flair, especially in the art and set design, and a surprisingly nuanced character study at the heart of the horror to keep it engaging when the novelty of the situation wears off. So, come to be revolted by this woman guzzling batteries, but stay for the moving depiction of trauma and grief that ties everything together. Number 7, The Personal History of David Copperfield. The Personal History of David Copperfield is very easy to write off as one of those nice Sunday afternoon films for grandmas. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but director Armando Iannucci imbues this period comedy drama with his usual wit to match the warmth of the material. Essentially chronicling the life of one David Copperfield, played with fallible grace by the always excellent Dev Patel, Iannucci has amassed a cast of British greats, including Tilda Swinton, Peter Capaldi, Ben Whishaw, Hugh Laurie, Gwendolyn Christie, Benedict Wong, and Paul Whitehouse to bring this story to life. Staying true to the original Charles Dickens novel, the director is able to still put a modern spin on the work, particularly through the inspired, somewhat fantastical narration. It's a movie so full of heart, and exactly the elixir needed this year. Number 6, Baccarat. Destined to go down as a future cult classic, Baccarat is fluid in terms of genre, starting as a low-key drama and escalating until the action becomes genuinely a bit surreal. Following how a town deals with the death of its beloved matriarch, the film expertly handles the different dynamics and personalities that make up the setting of Baccarat. Strange things are happening though, which cuts that meandering state short, and between the town disappearing from maps and strangers passing through, there's a taste of disaster in the air. Also, Udo Kier is in this and he's absolutely bonkers. Like, I don't even know if he realizes what film he's in, and I'm partly inclined to believe that he's just decided what his character would do on a whim and the filmmakers had to account for it on the day because he's having the time of his life, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Number 5. Why Don't You Just Die? Why Don't You Just Die, despite its appearances, is one of the most inventive thrillers in ages. The debut film from Russian director Kirill Sokolov is equal parts Edgar Wright and Quentin Tarantino filtered through the darkly comic sensibilities of Sam Raimi. A bloody twisty good time that remains unpredictable right until the closing moments. It has one of those plots that I wouldn't dare dream to spoil here, but the basic premise essentially sees one man's apartment become the source of a bloody mythical battle, as family drama spills out the burst stitches of the small cast of characters. It is ridiculously violent and well choreographed to boot, but the suspense filmmaking on display is some of the very best of the year as well. For a debut movie, it's imbued with so much confidence, allowing this simple premise to untangle into a web of satisfying payoffs and twists. Number 4. The King of Staten Island. Though he's always got his fingers in plenty of comedy pies, it's always special when Judd Apatow directs a movie himself. You can usually guarantee that they'll cover familiar ground of witty yet incredibly human observations about what it's like to be a stunted adult, that they'll champion some of the best names in comedy today, and that they'll probably be baggier than needed, and The King of Staten Island is no different in that regard. But this Pete Davidson vehicle has delivered some of the director's strongest material in a good while. Like all Apatow flicks, there's some real dramatic meat lurking under the laughs, and Staten Island's focus on male friendships and difficult family dynamics makes for some truly moving sequences. Though the supporting cast is strong, it's Davidson's volatile, often hilarious central performance that acts as the standout draw, and the director knows exactly how to get the best out of the rising star. It's not a perfect film by any means, but man, does it have so much going for it. Number 3. Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. A critical favourite and undeniably a movie that's going to remain in the conversation when award season rolls around next year, Eliza Hittman's abortion drama is an undeniably challenging and difficult watch. It can often feel somewhat forensic in how it painstakingly interrogates the formal processes of the situation, but in doing so it forces you into the headspace of the teen characters and the reality of their predicament. It's in the friendship between the two leads though, solidified over this coming-of-age story on the streets of New York City, that the flick is elevated to the next level. Dialogue is sparse, but newcomers Sydney Flanagan and Talia Ryder bear the brunt of the emotional weight of the story through their reactions and their characters' unspoken bond. This is a friendship forged by what's left unsaid rather than what is spoken out loud. It's at times deeply uncomfortable, but never, rarely, sometimes, always tenderly offers a snapshot of the lives of these true-to-life characters. Number 2. The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man is a concept that demands inventive filmmaking to make interesting. After all, the dude's invisible, and he's kind of an inherently silly monster, so an audience's investment in the horror isn't a given, especially following Universal's attempt at revitalizing its monster catalogue with the Dark Universe. Fortunately, as proven by his track record as a horror writer and director of the stunning Upgrade a few years ago, Leigh Whannell has the imagination and skill required to do the Invisible Man justice. In an era of by-the-numbers horror movies, the Invisible Man rarely colours between the lines, constantly shaking up its narrative with huge developments and daring twists. Through kinetic, gritty camera work and the patience to just linger, the horror has you just as scared of what you can't see as what you can. The presence of the central monster lingers over every frame, and the paranoia of Elizabeth Moss's character is shared with the audience at every step. The decision to update the villain as a believable domestic abuser grounds the horror as well, and Whannell and co managed to thread this real-world aspect with the fantasy action without it feeling exploitative or unearned. Number 1. Da 5 Bloods. Over the past few years, Netflix has been proving that it is a platform for giving filmmakers budgets and creative freedom to make the movies that most studios these days would scoff at. The Irishman was a major example of that in 2019, and this year it's Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods that benefits from the streamer's creator-first approach. That's because this decade-spanning war movie, for better or worse, is a Spike Lee joint that's been entirely let off the loose. About a group of aging Vietnam veterans returning to the country for the first time since the war to bury a fallen comrade and grab some hidden gold in the process, Lee definitely mixes genres and styles across this hugely ambitious story. It bites off a whole load, from the civil rights movement's impact on Vietnam soldiers to PTSD to generational divides, and while it can get unwieldy at times, it's never anything less than biting and hugely entertaining. The principal cast have an effortless chemistry as well, with a standout Oscar-worthy performance from Delroy Lindo, and the fractured friendship of their characters remains electrifying throughout, even as things go inevitably tits up and limbs start flying off. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you agree that these are the best films of the year so far, or are there any that I've missed off? After all, I haven't seen everything. Either way, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.